All right. Yeah, it's good.
What was the question for travel that you wanted me to answer?
Well, I just thought it was, well, we're live now, but I just thought it was, and we probably won't use this, but I thought it was interesting that you live around the world, that you're a globetrotter. I think it's exciting that you can, I come from the hood. My friends, and my rich friends, I have a friend never been to Asia. He's got $1 billion. This nigga never went anywhere. And he's literally one of the biggest hedge fund guys in America. And he goes to St. Bart's because we went there together as kids. And he goes a few places when he has to for business. But traveling is not on his, he's just not excited about it. And it's not only an urban phenomenon, it's an American idea that they don't need to travel. When I moved here, friends are like, I'm an American. I mean, rich friends, successful people who have the resources to go. And then other people, they don't know because they have the resources. You don't know that it costs $400 round trip to Bali on a good day, and then everything else costs. It's like you're a billionaire if you work in a subway in America. You got a lot of money. You can have a lot of fun here for a small amount of money, and people don't know that. So something I want to share with people, and you're an example of it. I mean, you're not going on a budget probably, but anyway, come on, join me on Instagram.
Okay.
All right, man. So I was talking to the great, kind of inspirational in many ways, Maya, the singer, who I knew her manager, Haq Islam. And Haq Islam worked out of my office. He was managing Maya. And Maya, of course, won awards and was this giant, iconic singer. I shouldn't say was, is. And she's deeply appreciated by so many people for lots of reasons. But I really, really fell in love with her after her first explosive entry into the music industry. I saw her at a bunch of she was an activist, and also she's a food activist, but also an animal activist. I saw her at a bunch of events where we were caring about animals. Somebody said they're eating fried bologna. Good for you, fucker. They're just being mean when they say that. I'm eating fried bologna. Processed food, like you're eating cigarettes. And if you fry it, you're eating worse. Ugh. Probably ate 5 cigarettes with that sandwich. It's a Class A carcinogen. I didn't get your name. It's a Class A carcinogen. Don't do that. You can help it. Don't eat animals. Anyway, Maya. So I became a big fan of it. I started to see all of these. She show up when it mattered to help people and animals, and she's now been not only making great records still, but she's a great activist. When see if she joins us, she will join us in a minute. I had a bunch of questions. I tell you these are rehearsals. And so, I learned something every day. And so you should study who you interview. Snoop and Chuck D and Eric Sermon and the Yogic Princess who was on here and others who've joined me, Russell Peters, Kevin Lawrence. I know them so well that when I interview them, I know what I want to get out of them. But that's not right, because I want to know what it really is on the mind of, and certainly what work that they're doing currently that we can promote and talk about. It's what talk show people do. So, with Maya, I wrote down a few questions. They're kind of what I would have said anyway. I reconnected with her as a friend recently in Singapore. I'm going to ask her about that, because seeing her in Singapore, that's when I started to realize that she traveled around the world and performed, and then we started trying to find more stuff for her to do around the world with Gush Cloud. We still should get back on that mission because she likes traveling, and I recommend to everybody, when they take the travel restrictions off a lot of these countries, go see them. If you can, it's not as expensive as you think. And certainly, if you come to East Asia, it's very cheap to live. So you can come here for vacation. A lot of hippies get here with nothing, next to nothing. And they survive. I'm not suggesting you do that, but you can get a hotel pretty cheap, right?
Okay.
And the Indonesians, certainly the Balinese, are really sweet people. Somebody says, you're a booker keeper. Coastal Key, I see you. Mecca, hi. Stan Lathan is on here. Anyway, Stan, you remember Maya. She's coming on in a few minutes. She's become this health guru, aside from independent record label of the year. She didn't win, but she was nominated last year. Independent record label for her own music. Creates her own label. Travels around the world and has built quite a network. And the thing about her is great. This is perfect. When you get on, she's pretty. And she's been around for a couple of weeks. She looks gorgeous. She hasn't aged 1 second. And I think it's her diet. But we'll talk to her about what else she does besides, she doesn't eat any animals for sure. She does cleanses and she does, I'm telling you, see, I know a lot about her. I could probably interview her like I did Snoop. But I wrote down questions. Independent album one. I misquoted. I wrote this down early. I knew this already, but her independent album got a nomination, album of the year. I want to play some of her music too. Not only her old music, I want to play for sure her first big hits, and then I want to play what she's putting out now. She has a new album. That's why I wanted to talk to her, to try to get some exposure for her work. There she is.
Lentils are great. That's why we did on Instagram.
Hey,
Hi, beautiful.
how are you?
How are you?
Good to see you. I'm good. Can't complain.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on first. Oh my God, you're just like the day I met you.
Not
Do you
quite.
remember Hak Islam?
Yes.
Of course you remember him, right? He was your first manager.
He was
Yeah.
president of our independent label that was based in Washington, D.C. And I say our, meaning Drew Hill, Pure Soul, and myself.
Oh, what's the name of the label?
University Music Entertainment.
Oh,
And so he
yeah.
got all of our major record label deals. I was at Interscope. Drew Hill was at Island Record. I can't remember where Pure Soul was. And then they also had Terry Dexter and Elsie Muniz, which was a Latin artist.
Wow. It's been a long time and you've had a long journey. And you can show people just, every time I reference how many hits or how long you've been around, I don't have to mention, they can see you. I mean, if we brought, pass this along to the podcast, I want to assure everybody listening, that Maya looks like she's 19 years old. And we'll talk about that later, but I just want to say that, because when I say it's a long time, women like, hey, you know what I'm saying? They don't want to hear how long it's been, but it's a testament to how well you've taken care of yourself. And maybe it's good genes, but it's certainly a good heart that keeps you, glowing like this. So it's been a long, long time. Your hustle seems to never stop. I don't know what you attribute that to, but I'd like to hear how you get up and go through this process. What makes you keep doing it?
Well, I love music. I love to make music. I've come from a musical family on both sides. And I was always influenced by a band in my living room or my garage where my dad rehearsed with his band. He's always been the lead singer of his own band since I was a little girl. To this day, he still performs. So music just runs through our veins and blood. And I initially was going to pursue Broadway after college. I grew up in Washington, D.C., land of go-go music, Chocolate City. That was a big influence because my dream was actually to become a percussionist in a go-go band. You know what? But I was and so I've just always been surrounded by music within all of the different forms of art. And I was an arts kid, from theater to orchestra, to choir, to dance, and gymnastics, tap dance, whatever it was. And so I attribute that to just loving what I do. But then there's a beautiful component involved when you can take care of family, hire other people from your community, take them all over the world and make a difference, and bringing back the arts and obviously opportunity to your hood, your community where you're from. So that's the beauty of it. And I don't do it just for me. I do love what I do, but there's so many people that I've been able to employ and support and see dreams come true of, and from, in small ways and major ways. So I love it all. And I haven't stopped. And I also feel, that everyone has their own individual journeys. But I really feel at the beginning of my career, it was cute, it was nice, and I'm very fortunate and thankful to have great opportunities to have worked with wonderful people. But I know that I still have yet to give the best of me, and that's on the way. And it's a it's an everlasting grind, especially when you're independent and you foresee a vision, and until you execute that vision and are able to serve it, it's very difficult to just stop and throw in the towel. So I have something very special on the way for everyone.
Yeah,
Working.
I know you have a new album, and I know that your last album was nominated. I mentioned that. I don't know if you were on. It was nominated for Independent Album of the Year. And I know that you keep making beautiful new music and keep touring. I mentioned earlier, but before you were on, that I saw you in Singapore, and I got reintroduced, and I realized how many fans you had there. And I knew that you had fans around East Asia. And I tried to put my team to work. They still should work. If they're watching, go to work, find Maya some money while she sleeps. That's what they do at Gush Cloud. They find artists opportunity in parts of East Asia where white men in suits don't work well. That's the company. It's an agency. I'll reintroduce you to them and push them. I don't know what your plans are besides putting this album out, which I think is admirable considering people, they've lost their dreams, many, I mean, you're still young and vibrant and making music and music being received so well by your communities. But it's great that people can be persistent and stay on their hustle the way you have. So for me, it'll be a pleasure. I want to play some of your music today.
Okay.
If you give me the opportunity. Yeah, like your new music. I want to play at least one or two of your hits, but I want to play your new music.
Okay.
For the fans who, and then you have all your people who, when they see Maya, they already know everything. But there's a whole lot of people who don't know everything, and they're going to be impressed or inspired, reintroduced or introduced to you through this podcast, if we're lucky. So tell me how a young woman like you in such a tough industry decided to start an independent label.
Well, it was circumstantial, and I'm always up for a challenge. That's how I was raised. It was actually devastation of an album leak after an accidental release in Japan, being that they're the furthest territory. And so when I was with Motown Universal in 2007, I was planning on releasing my complete mixed and mastered fourth album called Liberation, and the release date changed like a third time. But Japan is the furthest territory that was receiving music at the time, of course. And so they accidentally released it and didn't get the memo. And then it leaked everywhere online, and then it got shelved. And, it was a little negligence on their part, but things happen. It wasn't intentional. Maybe it was. But I was advised to probably just go independent, because also the record business and major labels were transitioning because of all the digital stuff and Napster, the internet. Music was not selling as much across the board, and so the budgets also weren't there as much anymore, and you saw a quick decline with the music industry happen. And I went independent instead of going to court to sue for my back end advance, just to get my mind together. And immediately I was actually offered a deal exclusively in Japan, where I got to executive produce my album, fund my album, own my masters, and they would put up all the radio marketing money, and everything that they released over there went #1. And it was just a one territory release, but that's how I got my feet wet.
Japan,
Just
I don't know if my Japanese team is listening, but I gave you a task. How come she doesn't have like 8 deals? She's so beautiful. Even I don't care if it's a beauty deal. We should offer Maya some deals, some lipstick, something she may like, something that you produced in Japan that she can endorse. Japan, see, that's what artists don't realize, what you have discovered. I guess by having a hit in Japan, it helps. But,
I-
seeing you in Singapore.
a
And
whole
then, go ahead.
Well, yeah, the whole album, that fourth album, leaked there in that territory. That was the only territory that received it. And then it leaked everywhere else worldwide online. And so the record label just said, oh, well, it's out and we probably shouldn't spend any money. Let's shelf the album after a year and a half of work and plus another 6 months of transitioning from Interscope, which was a rap and rock label when I signed to them with no R&B department. And going to, the traditional R&B label that had a huge history and catalog of R&B music. So I thought it would be a beautiful thing under the same umbrella of Universal Music. So we did a beautiful album, amazing producers, everything, and it happened. So that propelled my independent journey. No bad blood, no awful vibes, or no negativity. It's just a circumstance. And then, I was aligned with some people that were either fighting for their masters or owned their masters. So Jay Prince was one of those people that I first met with. He was one of the first Black men in hip hop to own his own masters, and he takes no crap. And I started working with him at the very beginning of my career as a just in case situation if I had problems getting out of my deal, while my album is shelved. And then he became a business mentor, and we did business on my next project independently, which was my mixtape called Beauty in the Streets Volume 1, which came out in 2009. The Japan album came out 2008. But I also met Prince. He found out that I went independent and reached out and invited me to one of the performances that he did and had a conversation with me about staying independent and why. And ownership matters, especially for us in our community. So I just stuck to those words. He invited me to open up for him. And I brought my band that I formulated in 2005 in my hometown. And, we opened up 2 nights for him at the O2 in London. And I've just listened to the people that have empowered themselves or have been fighting for years. And I've applied that to my whole independent journey. So that also keeps me going. And it's been a beautiful ride. I've been able to take care of my family. I've been able to take care of me, shoot music videos, put out 9 independent projects in my, small time as an independent label from 2008 till now. And then another one is already finished and another one's on the way. So I love music. Why do I have to wait for a budget to open up when I work like this, And
Well, Maya, the budget thing, that's artists are sometimes struggling because of lack of budget. Not because of lack of resources or infrastructure that labels provide. Little advance money will buy their soul, or the control, certainly, of their career, and that's what they live with. And it's a traditional idea, but you, by breaking these rules and being an example and taking care of yourself and your home, but you also have to have a good business mind, Maya, to run. There's a lot of balls bouncing when you're doing it by yourself. You're doing the work of a couple of hundred people at Universal Records.
I've done contracts, show contracts, producer agreements, negotiations, publishing split sheets, you name it, templates. But I also train fans as interns and employ them and get them paid. I train road managers. I've been my own security. I've been my own driver. I've been whatever I got to be at certain times to do what I need to do to get the music out into the universe. Just that. And I'm not even talking about marketing and promotion or radio because I haven't.
Jesus, this shit has to drive your husband crazy. Didn't I hear you got married? You got married?
I got married.
His name is Lank. What's his name?
Lansky. It's actually not
Maya Lansky, like Lansky.
Maya Lansky. It's actually not a guy that I married. I married myself in 2013 after a horrible toxic relationship. And I promised myself that I would love me, commit to these vows that I created. I reversed my diet, went back to doing what I was doing before I got in that relationship. Just last year, I renewed my vows and I shot a music video. So I was in a wedding dress to tell the real story of my real life because I really did marry myself.
Is that a video that we have?
And not just my
video?
Gangster self, because anybody that knows who Maya Lansky is.
Oh, shit. I said Lansky, Maya, and that's who you married yourself, Maya Lansky. You said, but I didn't realize that was...
To level up. you know, when you're not faithful to yourself, or when you up, or get better or learn new things, and go in there with beast mode, on beast mode. You know, I'm
What
from,
do you do? Just keep them off with an elbow? Like, what do you do to these dudes? Like, yo, nigga, bye. Well, how do you speak to them? You know, what's your gangsters come out?
it's not about,
Um,
you can be quiet and
Seem
gangster.
like you need somebody to work for you
You don't,
in a way that every relationship's different. Let me just say this: you seem to me like you need a guy who's like the roles women and men play for each other. One is more of the masculine energy, and one is more of the feminine energy. One is nurturing and supportive and loving and considerate, and maybe more thoughtful in some way. That's the qualities of the divine feminine.
and I believe
And
it's not,
no, but you can also be, you know, a little of both, and from both places. Can you see? You'll see it on the.
I'm a
But
leader.
I'm a Libra.
I know all about it.
Anyway, so what is a man? What a man got to do? That's a lot of dudes on here. Are my like my fans. Your fans are like, go Maya, marry yourself, be strong, right? My fans are like, well, if she's single, you know.
Well, let me break it down. It's not a diss to guys at all, because this was about self-love. And I feel like before you expect anything from anyone else, you must put that within yourself by working on yourself and doing the work. There's no shortcuts to that, because you ultimately attract what you are. Sometimes it's polar opposite, but there's a part of you that may be wounded or vulnerable. And it's up to us to take initiative to heal and really practice self-care, self-love, define what success is, define what love is before we go seeking it in another person, and be that so that we can attract our best selves. I'm still working on getting there. So this has nothing to even do with a man, and it's not about being loud and gangster. It's about sticking to your guns and knowing who you are so you can navigate this world silently. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
that's the divine masculine in you that points out that about, you know, it's not about gangster, it's about boundaries, it's
Yeah,
about power,
yeah.
about self-empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're speaking of, in yogic science, we have very detailed discussions about integrating the masculine and the feminine and into a healthy soul. And the women, I think, it says in scripture, have more of the nurturing qualities and but they all have masculine and feminine qualities, as you know. So the women, as you are very feminine, you also are very in touch with the powerful side of you, which has been suppressed as a woman in our society and in history. There are other societies and examples of when women are more included, where there's a balance. There's less war, there's less abuse, there's less greed, because the masculine qualities are greed. The toxic masculine is greed. The males are gatherers. But you have a strong masculine side as well.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're developing, be mindful of that, because, you know, well, it doesn't mean that you don't match perfectly as you are, but just be mindful of it, because the brothers look at it like, wow,
And
half of them are intimidated. Don't ask you to be small, but to be knowledgeable.
when I've done the work and I've also accomplished some goals that I've set before me, I feel more confident, I feel more fulfilled, and that's no one else's responsibility but mine. And then I'm more open-hearted to receiving love. When I have stuff to do and I'm consumed and overworked, etc., I'm usually very, very focused. And that also doesn't really have anything to do with another person. But I want to always make sure that it's not from a place of drained or a place of vulnerability. It has to be, okay, I'm walking to the table whole. I'm still working on myself. And I'm not appointing you as my savior to complete my life, but to complement and to add, not subtract. And the same goes for me. It goes both ways. So I'm so aware of my masculine side, but I also am very aware of balance and that being a law in the universe, polarity. And so I'm so open for love, but I think it's all about attracting the right love. So have I reached my highest self yet? And that's what I'm always working on, so that I don't attract what I was attracting before when I wasn't doing enough work on me. I was vulnerable with the holes in my life that I was trying to fill with someone else that caught me at the wrong time, and they can smell it from a mile away. You know what I'm saying? Take full advantage of that. So I take full responsibility, but you grow and you evolve, and then you begin to see the red flags and learning experience, and then taking it as a lesson, but also a blessing, and then applying it later on. So it's not about guys or all men are the same. I'm married to me. It's not about that. You know, it's about I want the best love, but I'm also trying to be the best for someone. And it takes time and patience with yourself.
It's such a pleasure to hear you speak, and in such a practical way. I had a big yogic priestess, well, big in our small world, but she was talking about this messaging, and that women need to hear and men need to hear as well. But she was talking about it, and although she didn't speak in Sanskrit, she might have, because it was difficult for some of the listeners, I'm sure, to digest. And to hear you speak in such plain terms about such important subject matter. It's important. You could be, and you are just now, someone will repeat that over and over and be inspired and really look to, whether it be scripture or basic reading materials or to study the self. The study of the self, look at you, drink your green juice, the study of the self is life's only journey, the yogis say. The only journey is to know the self. Once you know the self, God is in everything else, and you're happy regardless of circumstance. This is a lot of work, and it's life's only real goal, and it's kind of through your work you get there. That's what a yogi would say. Through your dharma and your focus, you get there, and your focus is your prayer. So you should, I think, I sent you, when I spoke to you briefly, I sent you the name of my publisher. It's a very powerful black woman. And, at this moment, everybody's not getting published. Some of my friends' books are not being published. And so this publisher has a major distributor, best in the world, and she's a black woman, and her imprint is just launching. She has a Tupac book. She has my book. On the table, she has my life story, which is not finished. I told them I'm sorry. That's how we got in business. I had written my life story again, like I'm not dead, so I stopped it even though it's finished, and I wrote this book that's coming, which you, by the way, are an inspiration for. And I want to get to that because we don't have but so much time. I want to talk about your music. I want to play your music. I have a schedule, right? I fucked it up already. But what you said was so profound and important. So what have we did? This is the first time I've ever done this. You said, you know what you want to ask me? And I felt intimidated, so I wrote it down.
Really?
I didn't do that for Snoop. I didn't do that for nobody, but, gosh, I shouldn't have written this stuff down about marriage since you married yourself, but your answer was so great. Shit, I'm going to marry myself. It's not because I'm sick of these old, because I need to grow, right? And that's beautiful, and everybody should hear that. And every one of us can be a better self, and as we dig to know the self, we have these struggles. Sometimes they're relationships, and we know when we're choosing the wrong person and we're the wrong person, is what you said, and that's very important. Mm. So the lucky guy, Lansky. I did write the word Lansky. That's funny because, and then you said you did marry Maya Lansky. Yeah. And the last thing I would think is gangster. I guess, why?
Are you familiar with Maya Lansky?
Yeah, of course I know Maya Lansky. I know the real life Maya Lansky.
Yeah, and he was very,
That's my godfather, for real. The one who actually worked for and ran his organization. So I know a little bit about who he is. I think everybody knows who Maya Lansky is. If we have Americans, the rest of the world who's watching, Maya Lansky is a famous gangster. And Maya is a famous gangster. We didn't know she was a gangster until today. But her inner self is strong on both ends, in her feminine and useful of her masculine qualities in balancing this beautiful person. So I played some of your music by now when I edit this. Mm-hmm. We talked about you're not married, for those guys who read that you were married. We talked about your travels around the world, which to me is inspiring. It's like, and everybody says, why is that important to you? Because I talk to people who never left America and they don't have a passport, and it's so easy to leave and even to live. And now in this new world, my office in New York is never going to reopen. We're going to operate manually. We're going to use our LA office as our American hub, and they're going to reopen that. But right now it's closed due to COVID. But I don't know I'm going to open an American office. They can live, I don't care if they live in Japan. As long as they get up and work during the time frame we need, it's fine. We're going to do that. And I think a lot of people are learning that. And with that learning, they know they can live anywhere. Maya, you could come live here. I'll build you a house. I built a Snoop Dogg house.
Oh, wow.
On this property. It'll be finished actually in 20 days or
When
less.
there?
What?
I said, when is he getting there?
Oh, we don't have a schedule. I spoke to him the other day, but I invited him.
That's great.
I invited Snoop,
The other
and he
night.
was like, I'm coming. I'm bringing my family. And I thought, I have a 5-bedroom house that I built from scratch here. And I'm building a yoga retreat center, which is a 35-bedroom hotel. And those are nice rooms, and they're luxury, but not luxury like Snoop Dogg, right? So I built a separate house. And that yoga place is also Modern Health. So you should come and bring a retreat of all those beautiful women that you mentor in, health and wellness to the retreat center. We'll have cryotherapy and maybe stem cell if we're lucky, but we certainly have cryotherapy and hyperbaric chambers, all the modern health technology. There's 100 people working there right now. There was 100 people working all night with lights building this retreat center. So it's going to be done pretty soon. But you should come here. If you come here, I will lay out the red carpet. I can figure out you could play at my friend's big event hall. And that way you could come for a reason. They'll pay you. You can set up in my crib, one of the houses, or in Snoop Dogg's house next door. It's not really his house. I just call it that because he was coming, and I thought he would think, nigga, this, my Ming Lee suite or Yoki Lee suite is too small for Snoop, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought about a lot of friends who might want to come, and I built a house that was for them. And as an example of the other houses I could build for friends, like Maya.
So what are the COVID restrictions as far as coming or heading to Indonesia?
Well, you can't come unless you know me. That's not true. There are social and business visas that'll get you in, right? I'm not, I can make sure Brother Gary Muhammad takes care of it for you. My kids just left.
And so the ladies that we're speaking about going on a retreat that I host, that
we have to wait a bit for that. You can come and set up, and the retreat center is not finished until August. But you're building a 35-bedroom hotel with all of these different amenities. It's a health resort. And, basically people will be teaching yoga there, I think, a yoga school, a school for yogic science. So imagine, even in some cases, those beautiful rooms will be occupied by 2 people. Because that's how yoga schools are. They usually share. And then it's only 30 people at tops you can really teach in a month to be, capable teachers. And I want to give the world really capable teachers. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm doing that. And I'm also built next door in a place to film a bunch of stuff, including my yoga schools app, which is coming out soon. I'm working. Hey. I've been hustling just like you.
It's a new world.
Oh, man, there's so much we can give the world. They need a lot. They need your nourishment. When you're feeding yourself, you have to feed the world. I know you're a music person, you're multi-talented, but what you do, the way you live, even more importantly, I think. Your music inspires people, and they love to see you sing. They love to see you keep going, too. When they hear a new song with your voice, I'm sure it's inspiring. But your direction on how to get out of the suffering, how to study the self. I sent you that publisher for a reason, and now listening to you, I'm even more inspired. This publisher is very interested in African Americans, African American women. She wants to empower, and her distribution is amazing. And I don't know if you considering writing a book now, but what Black women and all women would benefit from your expertise and your experiences. Funny, you're so young and beautiful, but you got the experience of a grown woman.
Well, I am a grown woman.
I know.
Diet, of course, is helping. Reverse age, because it's real. It's really real. And I'm working on the audio book for the Free Starter Guide, which is actually available right now. in text on PDF on my website, mayamaya.com/lifestyle, to help people transition into vegan lifestyle, but then, of course, the different tiers of that from where you are. And so,
Maybe I could get the publisher,
mm-hmm,
which is easy to get, the text that you have.
mm-hmm,
A lot of books come out and they break ground, they make some noise, and then a publisher comes along anyway,
mm-hmm.
even though it's out. Like, despite the fact that your album was out, they could have gone ahead, and they didn't because they thought it was given out. But what's like we're filming now. I'm going to edit this. I'm going to find wider distribution for this Instagram talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a podcast with music and all of the things and produced into something. And your book, maybe what you've written, the publisher will see it as, we'll talk about that. I'll get it to her myself, make it my business. Because you should be heard by as many people as possible. We have a lot of toxic, things that you can't follow every artist down every rat hole.
I got you.
Even here, there are people who, they say it's empowerment. It's not always empowerment. And I say that and with the most love for any of the artists that are listening who maybe think I'm talking about them. I'm not talking about our society. The truth is, even here, we have all of these women who teach tantric healing. And until you're totally healed, it's taught by yogis not to use all these tools because they're not really healing. They're hurtful. So they talk about tantric healing, even inclusive of sex, but they haven't healed themselves and not prepared. And so what they're doing is further damaging themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to really use these tools properly.
Absolutely.
And we need guides. They need guides like you. So I want everyone to hear you.
And I'm still a student, still learning, because like I said, there's different tiers and levels to it. And it's not just about vegan life, because not all vegan food is healthy, but raw vegan, organic, obviously, and then working around what people think, the stigmas, like it's too expensive. But when we add up medicines and the tubes that we're hooked up to, and surgeries and the chemo and the radiation and the triple bypass, you're actually saving a lot of money, short term and long term, when you buy in bulk and know how to shop. So there's other ways to get around, just going vegan to gain optimal health. And I definitely am in the process of that too, because I do love my processed vegan food. It's transitional food because I also cook for other people to try to help them to come to the side. It's not just rabbit food, but I need to get back to nature in the way I eat, because the ultimate goal is to go raw vegan, alkaline, electric foods from the earth, not store-bought, and farm and grow my own stuff, vertical farming, etc. So there's different tiers and different levels and baby steps. But when you're showing and providing, the places or accessibility, is very, very important no matter where you are in the world. So it's the cliff notes to going vegan, and then obviously the tiers after that I want to get to, and make it fun, make it entertaining, make it tasty, make it fulfilling. So I host cooking sessions online now as well during this pandemic. And now the next thing that's happening, which actually has helped me out, and I've only done it once, is aligning myself with master holistic healer and best-selling author Queen Afua, who has been in this game of overall wellness. And of course, she's vegan, but she's formulated her detox kit, which consists of 7 days, 14 days, and even 21 days. And we're going to do it again after all of these holiday shenanigans and, the toxicity from New Year's shots and whatnot, if you drink, and clean our bodies out so that we can start 2021 armed and prepared, because there's also cold and flu season. It's getting colder in our territory of the world over here in the States and many other places. And then we're in the middle of a pandemic. And so flushing our system with all the stuff that's backed up in there from the past 2 holidays that will have happened by then is really key, especially for the ones suffering the most, that eat like that on a consistent basis traditionally, because it's really killing us. And I'm glad to be aligned with people that are leaders so that I can learn and then apply that as well to bringing it to another generation because we also need to start now, because there's even more toxicity in our environment, just social media alone, and then the fear and what we're being sold, even the makeup products and stuff we're putting on our skin. It goes very, very deep. So it's about wellness, but vegan obviously was the first step for me regarding what I put in my body. And I've definitely seen so many differences and felt better and performed better and feel great, you know. I dance up a storm
Listen,
more now than ever before. I can work out and lose weight in 3 days. Like it's there's something real about just taking it back to the natural source. So definitely on the same page with you about sharing that knowledge to empower people, which is the ultimate goal. And then obviously the relatability factor, because I didn't grow up vegan. This is not something that I've been doing
grew
for.
up in D.C. with pig feet and chitlins. I
Or
know you.
yes, that's my family raised. That's what I grew up on, and that's real. But when I look at my family and all the suffering, it hurts me. It hurts to see my mom with cancer twice and my dad with diabetes, and other family members are really, really having a hard time right now, and that's very scary in the world as well right now because you're more at risk. And this is definitely a calling of mine. So remaining a
You
student.
have a very similar journey to mine in so many ways. So it touches my heart to hear you talk like this to a totally different audience, although we're both speaking to members of the Black community. Most of my audience, I guess, is feminine too. It's women on Instagram and social media, whatever. But you speak so perfectly in the language that they can digest. So I do get where you're coming from. Like I said, pig feet and chitlins. I mean, I said that to Ingrid from PETA, she wouldn't get that, but she probably came from horrific food as well, pork and beef and chicken and fish. No one knows. I told a vegan yesterday that it wasn't about processed food, it was about eggs. And she was horrified. She's not vegan now. She's vegan for 5 years. She's raising these children. She said, we grow our own eggs. I just said, you know about eggs? And I just gave her a little bit from what's in this book and what you know, and no one knows. No one knows how carcinogens are in everything. All the animal products are almost all causes of cancer in some way. They all causes of diabetes, not sugar. All of these things. They said, well, Russell, why do you talk so much about what these things do to you? Because one medicine food that's really good for you, not medicine in a traditional Western way, like kills bad things, but lifts good things, is one part of our diet. The other part of our diet might be drugs, because that's just another label, toxins that kill us. So one saves us and one kills us. The choices are up to us. And that's a phenomenal, when you realize it and when you feel it, it's not hard. You don't have to be so resilient as people think to be vegan or to make the choices you make. They just feel good, and you keep moving towards them and making additional changes because it feels good. So what you said about your detox program with the Queen, people should look for that. They should follow you for that and take those choices that you're offering to uplift themselves out of suffering, which you said you see so much of. The suffering of humankind is unparalleled. I guess to the suffering of the animals that we and create a cycle of negative, painful experiences. The animals, for sure, because of us, because of them, the animals that we kill and abuse are the cause of the destruction of the planet, as you know. And the animals that we eat are the cause of our personal destruction and the suffering. From a compassionate person like you and myself, who just can recognize it. People are compassionate but don't recognize the pain that we cause.
But it's also been all concealed, the actual process for the product that we just look at product. And we grow up how we grow up because it's advertised to us, and there are a lot of missteps in that and false information. And so we then become the consumers, and it becomes a way of life and then habitual. And it's very, very hard to get out of habits that are of addiction. you know, and a lot of the components that are in those foods are of addiction, just the sugar alone and the chemicals. So I think anything not natural, even some of the vegan food options, loaded with sodium, high blood pressure, loaded with things that you can't pronounce. Some products, not all, but of course it's a lot better than certain things that will clog your arteries over time and cause you to have a heart attack or a stroke, etc., because of the hormones and the antibiotics and the pus, etc., that it consumes animals. And then the steroids growing children at alarming rates, you know. So it directly affects us, but not just that. It's also the energy of the animal after years and a lifetime of torture that we intake. And then what we are not realizing, and of course scientists and biologists have put together, is that we have two brains as human beings. We have our gut, which is actually a brain, and our mental body. And they're both directly linked. And so some of the causes of mental illness and mental health issues is because of the chemical imbalance. And we always hear those words thrown around and we don't know what that means when we're talking about mental well-being and mental health issues or disorders. So what we eat directly affects our brain. And that is scary because guess who suffers from that the most? The Black community. And, you know, our traditions have come from slavery because we had to make something work for ourselves. So what has been fed to us is actually not the natural way which we used to eat, where we come from, you know, including Native Americans. You know, this is not our actual diet. They call it the SAD diet for a reason, the standard American diet. And it's killing everybody, but it's killing a set group of people at more alarming rate than other groups. And why is that? Accessibility, economics, access, you know?
Also socialization. We think that, you know, we were given pig feet and we thought we made a delicacy out of it. And they said that was cultural. So we think it's cultural to make pig feet or chitlins. But the cultural thing that we can take from that is that we can make chitlins taste good. We make chitlins taste good. If we can make a pig's gut taste good, why can't we make a plant-based diet taste good? We can. You know, aside from this book, I have a book on the shelf called Soul Vegan from Around the World. It's not much raw. It is a lot of raw, but it's not touting the raw vegan diet. It's not touting every, you know, next step. It's just a whole bunch of recipes that are healthier, that don't include processed goods, and that, you know, get us to step one. Step one, I don't want people to be intimidated.
Exactly.
I don't know how your vegan challenges, I know, but I have a bunch of people advising me to do challenges around this book. And they are making it very, very easy so people don't drop out.
Yeah.
Because you're such an inspiration, and what you do, like, you don't want them to say, oh, fuck, I can't be Maya. You can be. Look at her glow. You can get there by starting a process. And you don't have to be her. You be a better you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't, you know, I look at people in yoga and they're doing forearm stands and hand. I can't do it anymore. But every day I stretch and breathe and I still get the same high. You're going to feel so much better when you start the process that you continue. And then you want more because you're greedy. That's kind of people have to realize any little step. You stop eating this and you feel better, you know, or you do a little exercise and you feel better. All those things promote presence and happiness. And you are just an evolved example, but you can teach anyone. I think listening to you is, I'm sure, waking people up. So I pray that you get more exposure on your vegan side of your life and your choices, because you could be a leader. You are a leader, and you could be a bigger leader. I always want shit to be big, and you are already big, but can be
Well,
big.
I'm still learning, you know.
I'm going to give your book to my publisher because I'd like to see them work promoting you. Even though we have an album right now, let's get to this.
Right.
You're such a multidimensional and beautiful person. I'm so happy to have had this time. I have a shitload of questions still, but it's going to cut off. Pre-interview needed.
Well, can I had a question.
What did I leave out?
I wanted to ask you, you know, we have similar experiences with our family. And what was the turning point for you? Seeing someone suffer, and what place in your life were you when that happened?
Well, the animal product thing happened. I started to go to yoga every day about 25, 26 years ago. I was going every day. And then I remember coming out of a class. The two things happened. Coming out of a class, and the teacher, who had parents were monks, very devout teacher at Jivamukti, said, put something in your body that will enhance your practice. That was such a hard class. He's sweating like a slave. I'm looking up at him, and we sit up and we chant at the end of the classes. They're very devotional classes. And he said that, and they had already been beating me up. They were vegan, and they were activists. The whole studio, whole Jivamukti yoga practice was led by what everybody referred to as vegan Nazis. They tell you what was in your hot dog one day, and the next day they talk about the suffering of animals, and it was constant. And I was listening, but not listening. And then he said that, and I said, I can only put a green juice in from the bar here. I can't put a leaf. I can't put nothing in to add to that twist. What I can do is get that out. And so that was good. And then I saw the movie Diet for New America, and that was the punchline. They showed this whole story of the heart attack. Of course, that book was a bestseller many, many years ago, and for a very, very long time, but it was at the early stages of going vegan for a lot of people. And so I went vegetarian after Dachin's talking, and then I went vegan. And the more I learned, first from my body and the suffering of animals, because it was always suffering of animals, mm-hmm. and the images. They made people watch Earthlings if you did teacher training at Jivamukti. And that's such a scary movie. Especially those of us who live in the city who didn't have to prepare our food, didn't have to do the killing. We saw that. Now, of course, the suffering is way worse. The abuse of animals is way worse than it was 25 years ago. So we see all the pain that they hide and all of the inconsistencies in their messaging. And all, you watch the American Cancer Society's website and they tell you to eat steak. You watch the diabetes website, they tell you. So all of them are owned by and run by the people who are causing the suffering. And so you see their input where they should be criticized, they are included. And this is America. All of the food, the processed food. I was saying that there was 2,000 different, not carcinogens, but toxins in American food. 1,800 of them are not included or can't be used in Europe. America has 1,800 of 2,000 toxins on this list. So when you look at your Doritos, it ain't even the same Doritos they got. You look at your KFC, it ain't the same KFC they got. You look at your, and what they do to corporations, they say, well, if America allows it, let's use it because it makes us money. And then that feeds the sickness. The reason when they asked the vice president, why? I don't want to talk too much more because I've said this stuff before, but why do Americans die at such a far greater rate from COVID than other developed nations? It's because you let them poison us, and we have all these pre-existing health conditions as a result of diets we have. The American diet is full of so much extra toxins. Aside from the fact that chicken is full of cholesterol as much as beef, despite what people say, that's pretty obvious to any doctor now. Despite that fact, they continue to promote it as a healthy diet on the places where it causes cancer or sickness or clogged arteries or, so many things come from that chicken. But they promote it on a diabetes website, the American Diabetes Association, I guess it's called, or the FDA approves and supports all these toxins and won't approve or support a lot of, or research even, a lot of healthy things that the pharmaceutical companies can't use. Yeah, anyway, we can go on about that. If we talk too much about that, they'll come get us. They'll create ways to attack us. But that's okay because I'm courageous enough. You certainly are. I love you, and I'm really inspired by your journey. And I really hope that a lot of young women follow you so they can not suffer and they can find better ways to serve, God, humanity, and themselves with your input. So, again, I want to hear your voice more. I appreciate everything you represent. I hope that you get a chance to come here. I'll be there before you're here. Maybe we can hang out. But certainly, if you come here, we'll lay out the red carpet for you. The Snoop Dogg suite will probably be finished. You can have a house, and you'll find what you know from traveling around the world, that there's a lot of beauty, certainly a lot of beauty here. So when I build a school, also, you can come and teach the women. The school will be done in August. So the school is, people will fly from around the world, and you could then host, whenever you get ready, events and retreats, and you could do your music too. I'm going to put a studio on at that hotel. So God bless you. Thank you, Maya.
Thank you for having me.
Really.
Also,
Well, it's my pleasure.
To actually
We'll chop this up and send it to you.
Okay. Can I speak to your people?
Tell me which music you want.
I will. And
all right.
The detox is happening January 4th with a whole kit that you can now order for 50% off at mayadetox.com, formulated by holistic healer Queen Afua. And I've done it before, and you feel amazing. I lost 11 pounds in 7 days when I did it last, and it was a beautiful thing, and I need to do it again. Because thanks.
I want to hook up. I want to do things with Maya, along these lines, and maybe plug her into or whatever she has. We want to take the Queen, what's her name?
Afua. Master.
I want to take this information and put it up on the podcast, and make sure we direct people. And also when we put this on, my little brand new YouTube channel, we'll put it up. We'll make sure that information, you just click on it. And when I put it up on the swipe up, we'll make sure they can click on it. And January 4th, you can begin a new you with Maya. And I guess about February, our programs, which are kind of similar, they're for real beginners. And they don't take much, but once you get in it, maybe you won't quit. The main thing I learned about these programs is that people get intimidated.
Yeah, and then I had to decrease my days that originally started at 7 days for the vegan challenges to 3. And so that I call them 3-day resets. So more people have involved themselves and realize, because they're not intimidated and they actually start, oh, this is super easy, with guidance, with recipes now in the starter guide that's free. And, a couple of IG lives here are very, very helpful. So I agree with that, to make it accessible and something that's not too intimidating.
Thank you for your time. I'm off to yoga.
Yeah.
God bless you.
You too.
Yeah, I'm going to class. I go to class this morning for me. Thank you for taking your time. God bless you, Maya.
You too. Have a good one. Take care.
You take care, darling.
Happy holidays.
Okay, so what did we learn? Let me see, how do I do this? Okay, what did we learn? That there are lots of inspirations out there. Maya is one of the main inspirations in this next revolution for health and wellness. And also that Maya has a new album, and we're excited about that. I want to share that with everyone. 2 songs that she chooses will edit in. And we learned that if you keep your head up, they say the yogic lifestyle can reverse aging. And Maya hasn't aged a second, not even a second. So that's beautiful. And in fact, she looks like she's younger than the last time I saw her. So namaste. So the yogis, have a great, great